Good evening.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin tonight with a staggering number. 40,000 children died today. 40,000, whose deaths could have been prevented. At least that's the judgment of the United Nations Children's Fund in its annual report on the state of the world's children, which is published today. UNICEF has some good news as well as bad, but the bottom line from UNICEF's point of view is this. Many of the world's developing nations are cutting back on their spending to benefit children because they are so deeply in debt to the banks and governments of the industrialized world. Here's ABC's Richard Threlkeld.
Ethiopia is just one of a dozen places on Earth where people are this desperate for something to eat. In the Third World's war on poverty, poverty is winning, and the victims are the children. UNICEF estimates that 500,000 children in 16 of the poorest nations are dying every year, dying of starvation or disease, because their governments are spending so much money paying off what they owe to the rich nations in interest on development loans. The result, according to the World Bank, is that the poorest countries are paying the richest countries about $43 billion every year.
These mounting debt payments are literally taking food and medicine out of the mouths of millions of children.
There's been some progress in the decade since UNICEF's International Year of the Child. Improvements in child care and immunization have saved several million lives, but 50% of the children in developing nations still are unprotected against measles, tetanus, whooping cough, and polio. Just one 10-cent vitamin A pill or a handful of green vegetables a day could prevent 250,000 children from going blind each year. Preventive medicine denied the have-nots.
Those that have the least leverage in the political process, meaning the poor, children, and so forth, suffer the most the budgetary cutbacks that are necessary in order to service debt.
UNICEF thinks the rich nations and their banks must lift at least half the burden of debt off the poor nations in the next 5 years. If not, says UNICEF, by the year 2000, 11 million children will die every year needlessly because the Third World won't have enough money left to keep them alive. Richard Threlkeld, ABC News, New York.
The executive director of UNICEF was trying to put this problem into perspective the other day. Every 2 days, he told us, we have a Soviet Armenia. In Soviet Armenia tonight, the problem is the wrong kind of aid for the victims of the earthquake 2 weeks ago. ABC's David Ensor is there.
So much emergency aid has been sent for earthquake victims that Red Cross officials are saying consideration is now being given to sending some of it back.
The message is thank you very much, thank you for your generosity, but please realize that there are already emergency needs are met for the time being.
Officials say the world's response has been so overwhelming that there is now more than enough food, clothing, and medicine. For example, Armenia asked for 20 kidney dialysis machines. More than 60 have been received already, and more are on the way, giving Armenia more kidney dialysis machines per capita than anywhere in the world. What is still needed now, officials say, is more money. Money for the reconstruction of towns where today foreign rescue teams are still working, day and night, looking for survivors, but mostly retrieving the dead. Money is also needed, Soviet officials say, for a big new hospital to specialize in the treatment and rehabilitation of amputees and paraplegics. There are a lot of them now in Soviet Armenia. David Ensor, ABC News, Moscow.
So if the Soviets are saying send money and not material, what's to become of all the goods donated by Americans for Armenians? Here's ABC's Bonnie Strauss.
Across the country, clothes and food supplies continue to pour into clearinghouses. Some organizers are unwilling to accept the message from the International Red Cross that essential supplies are no longer needed in Armenia.
We certainly are not in agreement, and we don't intend to stop. We are still seeking temporary shelter, medical equipment, still some clothes, and foodstuffs.
But other people are starting to get the message and are planning to turn their supplies over to the homeless in this country. More than 3 tons of winter clothing has been collected in St. Paul, Minnesota. Within the next few days, organizers there are planning to distribute these goods to the city's poor. In Los Angeles, where tons of medical supplies, clothing, and other goods have been collected for earthquake victims, a similar story.
If they are not wanted over there, then definitely we are going to share it with our homeless people.
Advocates of the homeless are ready.
There's a network in existence for distributing surplus food, surplus tools, surplus supplies of every kind. The mechanism exists, the need exists.
So it now appears that the outpouring of concern for Armenians will also wind up helping some Americans. Bonnie Strauss, ABC News, New York.
In a moment, one of Mr. Bush's prospective cabinet members runs into some opposition, and later in the broadcast, the family is on the American agenda tonight, sharing Christmas with those who really need it. And Max Robinson, the first black anchorman on an American television network, has died.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by Johnson & Johnson.
It's a stress headache, and it starts from the shoulders, and it goes up into my head. I have this right here, and that's when I know it's bad.
Lisa, I'd like you to try Tylenol gel caps. For pain like yours, nothing works better.
It's gone. I feel much better. I took the new gel caps, and I feel I can go out and tackle the world and deal with the people I need to deal with in a nice way.
New extra-strength Tylenol gel caps. In the real world of everyday pain, nothing works better.
You know, I still haven't got Mom and Dad their presents.
Yeah, it figures.
Name brand watches. Hey, they're on sale at Kmart, $39.96.
Well, what are you waiting for? Christmas?
Brighten up your holidays with a gift box of Riuniti Premium Classics or a gift box of delicious Riuniti natural fruits. Top off the season with sparkling Riuniti Spumante. And may all your holidays be bright.
President-elect Bush is still trying to put together a cabinet. It had been widely expected that Mr. Bush was going to name the first black member of his cabinet today. It didn't happen, and the reason may be new questions about whether Mr. Bush and his nominee agree on one of the most controversial issues of the day, abortion. In Washington, here's ABC's Jim Wooten.
This morning, the vice president assured a business group that no, he won't raise taxes. And this afternoon at a Washington haberdashery, after a fitting for his inaugural outfit, he said no questions, or at least no answers about what happened in between his appointments. Everybody thought he would announce Dr. Louis Sullivan as his Secretary of Health and Human Services today. The Bush transition staff, led by Craig Fuller, arranged this interview to say nothing happened to the planned announcement. It wasn't planned at all.
We had no scheduled 2 o'clock briefing.
Maybe he didn't, but it was on the vice president's schedule, and then it was canceled.
We were considering doing a 2 o'clock briefing, and when I got back here this morning, we wanted to hold off on it.
Over the weekend, according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Dr. Sullivan said that while he and Bush agree that there should be no federal funding for abortions, he nevertheless endorses a woman's right to have one. Now anti-abortion groups who supported Bush have objected to Sullivan. Jack Fowler spoke today.
Someone who is on the record as saying he supports a woman's right to abortion is totally unacceptable to the anti-abortion movement.
Dr. Sullivan was in consultation with Bush staff all day today. In a letter to tomorrow's Atlanta Constitution, he says he opposes abortion except in cases of rape, incest, and the mother's health. And Bush insiders were still insisting tonight that Sullivan is the man. Perhaps an announcement at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Jim Wooten, ABC News, Washington.
From the U.S. Navy today, an assessment on discrimination. The Navy's own report says that while there have been few public racial incidents in recent years, subtle discrimination in the service is still widespread. It ranges, we're told, from racial jokes and slurs to whites getting favored treatment from officers. In economic news, there has been no speed up in inflation. Consumer prices rose 0.3% last month. Food and energy costs held steady. Clothing prices went down. Overall, the drought held the gross national product to just 2.5% over the summer, and that is the slowest growth in 2 years. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrials lost about 6.5 points today, and the trading was... On the American agenda tonight, families helping other families at Christmas time. At this time of the year, we're all bombarded with reminders that Christmas is a time for giving as well as receiving. There are a lot of families which simply cannot afford to do that. a lot of children who may be disappointed on Christmas morning. As ABC's Carol Simpson reports,
you could see excitement in their eyes as they lined up at Chicago's Marshall Field's department store to talk to Santa Claus.
Let's come a little closer, son, and let's tell Santa what we like for Christmas.
Bert is 5 years old, and he's been waiting a long time for this moment.
Mousel Brave Star X-Tex, the Mousel Brave Star House, and Pirate Legos.
Bert's parents smile knowingly, and he leaves confident that his Christmas wishes will come true.
Merry Christmas to one and all.
For most American children, that's the way it works. You tell Santa Claus what toys you want, and he brings them on Christmas Eve. But for the more than 13 million children living in poverty, that is not the way it works.
You better watch out, you better not cry.
Meet Beverly Washington's family. She and her children live in Chicago on welfare. After expenses, there's little or no money left for Christmas toys. But 8-year-old Gordell wants Transformers.
What happens if you don't get those Transformers?
I just go in my room and just lay down.
Why?
Because I don't got nothing to play with.
It's a lot of pressure when you look at your kids and see them looking at TV and they want this, and then you know you can't give it to them. Sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too.
A few blocks away, Lisa Bracken, another welfare mother, doesn't know how to explain to her 5 children that Santa won't be coming to their house.
There's times I sit by myself and think about it, and I cry because it hurts.
It is also the season to be giving, and there are people throughout the country who are. They donate money to the Salvation Army, contribute to the Marines Toys for Tots program, and volunteer at community organizations and churches. But the program that seems to give thousands of individuals and families the most satisfaction starts at post offices around the nation. Among the millions of pieces of mail the Chicago Main Post Office handles are letters to Santa written by children and parents from poor families. A postal supervisor, Mrs. Tony King, and some volunteers read the letters to find out who needs help.
It's Dear Santa, I had a bad fire and lost one of my kids, and I lost everything I had. We don't have any clothing to wear. We're very poor.
Donna Hinrichs and Angelo Capozio have been answering Santa letters for 7 years. These are not wealthy people. They scraped together more than $2,000 to play Santa to 16 families, a total of 53 people.
Why should a child not have Christmas? They have 364 depressing days that they have to go through. It's an awful situation for them.
The basement of Donna and Angelo's house is filled with the toys, clothing, and goodies they've bought all year in preparation for Christmas.
Santa Claus is coming.
A few days ago, they invited a bunch of friends over for a gift wrapping party. Some of these friends will help deliver the presents and food to each family on Christmas Eve. Why do Donna and Angelo do this every year?
Maybe sometime in their life in the future, 15, 20 years, that hopefully if they could ever get out of that environment, maybe they would want to give something back because they remembered some people came to their house Christmas Eve and Christmas was a blast.
When Donna and Angelo heard about Beverly Washington and Lisa Bracken, they added their children to the long list of families Santa Claus will visit this weekend. There are 4 days left till Christmas. Carol Simpson, ABC News, Chicago.
A mixed response to charities this year. Some say getting more than usual. Others say not as much. We'll have our final report in just a moment.
It hurts. Sinus pressure and headache. It really, really hurts. A painkiller alone can't stop it. A nasal decongestant alone can't stop it. Sinutab can stop it. Sinutab combines the painkiller in Tylenol with the decongestant in Sudafed to give you more than either one alone. Sinutab is the #1 sinus medicine for a good reason. It stops the pain. It stops the pain. Sinutab stops the pain.
Ready?
In a minute, honey.
It's nice to be noticed for what you wear and how you look. And if you wear dentures, it's nice to know Efferdent freshens up dentures and cleans away stains so well. With Efferdent, all they'll notice is you.
Hey.
We won $10 million from Publishers Clearinghouse.
And we only had one chance to win.
Now, Publishers Clearinghouse gives you 5 chances to win big money fast. We're announcing more winning numbers, more prizes than ever before right on TV. On January 31st, you could win $10 million. But to win fast, you've got to enter fast. So watch your mail for the biggest Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes ever and enter today.
We won $10 million.
If you hurry, you can too.
X-Lax presents a gentle guarantee. A guarantee that X-Lax works gently by 8 a.m. when taken at bedtime or your money back. A promise you can count on. X-Lax, guaranteed complete relief by 8 a.m.
Tonight on Nightline, both major Israeli parties agree on one thing: they won't talk to the PLO. But since Washington now will, what does that mean for future U.S.-Israeli relations?
Finally this evening, Max Robinson. If you have been a regular viewer of this broadcast over a number of years, you will recall that when World News Tonight began, Max Robinson was our anchorman in Chicago. Max died this morning after a very difficult year, for he had AIDS. He was not yet 50, and yet life had often been difficult, even when it seemed most rewarding.
I had a lot of doors slammed in my face by people who were really indignant because I would even suggest that a person of my color could get into something like this, you know.
The doors of one station, WTOP in Washington, opened in 1965 for a 26-year-old black man with little previous experience.
I was interested in journalism when I was a kid, electronic journalism particularly.
Our story is not so much about Negroes and poverty as it is a story told by poor black people living on the outskirts of American society.
One of his former bosses said Max was a guy who went after stories and got them. In 1969, Max was named the first black local news anchorman in Washington and gained national attention in 1977 when he helped to mediate the end of a takeover of some Washington buildings by a group calling themselves Hanafi Muslims.
You were asking that those responsible for the deaths or who killed your children be brought to the B'nai B'rith building.
And the ones that killed Malcolm.
And the ones that killed Malcolm.
That's right.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight.
A year later, Max was one of the 3 anchormen on ABC's World News Tonight.
Frank, the Democratic National Committee got together.
He was the first black to anchor in network news.
I felt a tremendous amount of pressure when I took this job, that I could not fail. I must not fail. And that kind of burden is much too great for anybody to have to carry. To constantly be guarding against failure almost guarantees failure.
Max was based in the Midwest, but he was the national anchor, and he covered stories far afield. He covered the devastating earthquake in Coalinga, California, and the near disaster at 3 Mile Island.
And that could lead to the dreaded condition known as meltdown.
Max always wore his confidence well in public. In private, his painting was a reflection of his introspection.
Painting is very meaningful to me. It's a very, very good way of, first of all, concentrating totally and being in touch with myself.
Max was also weighed down by the burden of being a role model to so many in the black community. A brooding Max hit network news where it hurt, in its social conscience, calling it a crooked mirror through which white America views itself. Max left network news for good in 1984, first to become the anchorman of a local newscast in Chicago. Since then, he has been in and out of broadcasting, and when he became ill a year ago, he was writing his autobiography. Max has asked that his death be an example of the importance of AIDS education, especially for young blacks. Max died of AIDS at 49.
And that is our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. Good night.